Meeting is called to order, the Planning Commission for Wednesday, July 7th, 2021. Will you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will go through a roll call since we have some of the commissioners here in the house with us and some still on Zoom. Commissioner Bowman,
Present.
Commissioner Cortez,
Present.
Commissioner Goins,
Present.
Commissioner Lennon,
Present.
Commissioner Lyle, present. Commissioner Sharp, Commissioner Woodruff.
Present.
Great. Mr. Attorney, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. During this meeting, a designated convention center staff person will run the Zoom aspect of the meeting so that each commissioner may be able to focus on the meeting rather than the technology. This person will be able to advance slides in a presentation, see who is digitally or physically raising their hand, and control the ability to mute participants. All Planning Commission members should mute their microphones when they're not speaking to ensure that there is no background noise and that computer alerts are silenced. Commissioners should keep their cameras on for the duration of the meeting except during announced breaks. When a commissioner wishes to speak via Zoom, physically raise your hand, wait for the chair to call on you, and then unmute yourself. Talking over each other will cause excessive delay. If at any time during the meeting a commission member gets disconnected from the meeting will briefly pause to give us time to return to the meeting. All matters requiring commission action will be presented to the Planning Commission by the planning staff and the applicant. In situations where planning staff is the applicant, there will be only one presentation. Staff will be limited to 5 minutes to make their presentation and shall make the first presentation. The applicant, also limited to 5 minutes, will make a second presentation. To maintain an orderly meeting, all presentations shall proceed without interruption unless the commission desires to intervene with questions or comments. The chair will open the public hearing for those physically present wishing to speak about an item. Those in favor shall be heard first, followed by those opposed. A 10-minute time limit will be allowed for public comment in favor, and a 10-minute time will be allowed for public comment in opposition. When the public hearing opens, a staff member will track the 10-minute time periods for both statements in favor of and opposed to the item presented. Staff member will raise their hand at the 5-minute mark. And which staff member is timing tonight? Mr. Harbeck will raise his hand at the 5-minute mark, the 1-minute mark, and verbally call time when it expires. If there's no public comment or if there's time remaining, staff will note the time remaining or that no time was used. All groups, organizations, neighborhoods, or similar associations desiring to comment are asked to appoint one spokesperson to present their concerns or point of view to the commission on each agenda item. The public has been encouraged to submit their comments in writing via a web-based form. All comments received prior to 3 p.m. today were forwarded, unedited, to the members of the Planning Commission. Any resident or property owner in the city may submit written comments through the public comment form for 24 hours after the public hearing is closed. The public comment form can be found on the Planning Commission website, and all comments received will be delivered to all members of the Planning Commission and City Council. All comments received will be made available to the public after the 24-hour period has ended. If additional time remains from the 2 initial 10-minute public comment periods, the chair, in their discretion, may read some or all of the submitted written comments. Time for reading submitted comments will be limited to any remaining balance for the comments in support or in opposition of an item. In addition, or in the alternative, the chair, in their discretion, may give a summary of the number of comments in favor, against, and neutral to an item. All votes will be roll call votes. After proper motions are made and consistency statements read into the record, the chair will call each member by name, and each member should clearly state their vote, aye or nay, one at a time. After votes are cast, the chair will state the outcome of the vote and the action. This process requires extra patience and extra time. The chair should be prepared to move on frequently restate comments and questions and ask for a green light to move on. Rezoning requests that received an unfavorable recommendation from the Planning Commission may be appealed by the applicant to the Wilmington City Council. Appeal should be in the form of a letter submitted to the city clerk within 10 days of this hearing. Appeals for all items heard tonight will be heard at the August 3rd, 2021 City Council meeting. All right, commissioners, you had minutes from May 5th and June 2nd in your packet. We'll start with the May 5th minutes. So do we have any questions or revisions? Mr. Sharp? Here, microphone.
I move the approval of the minutes of May 5th.
Thank you. Commissioner Sharp has moved to approve the May 5th minutes. Do we have a second? Second from Commissioner Cortez, and we will do voice votes on the minutes. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented for May 5th, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
You opposed? Now we'll move on to the June 2nd minutes. Any revisions? Or a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of June 5th,
June 2nd?
June 2nd. I can't read.
Thank you, Commissioner Cortez. Commissioner Cortez has moved to approve the minutes from June 2nd, 2021. Do we have a second? Commissioner Bowman. And we'll do a voice vote. All in favor of approving the June 2nd, 2021 minutes as presented.
Aye.
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 One opposed. Great. The minutes for May 5th and June 2nd are both approved as presented. All right, moving on to our new business.
JC,
Yes.
your voice comes and goes. It's almost, I don't know if it's you close to the mic or what, but it almost fades out, then it gets nice and strong and it goes back and forth.
Oh, okay, thanks. Greg, is that something you can work on or do I need to do something? Okay. All right.
She's good with me.
Hey, how about in the room? Is it consistent or?
I can hear you fine in here. Anybody else have any issues? Okay.
Well, we will start with agenda item 1. It's a conditional district rezoning for properties containing 2.13 acres located at 4742, 4746, 4750, and 4754 College Acres Drive from R15 residential to MFM CD, multifamily, medium density conditional district, to allow three-story apartment buildings with a total of 36 units. And our staff presentation is Mr. Mahoney. Welcome.
Got it. Great. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The site is located on the southern side of College Acres Drive and contains approximately 2.13 acres and is currently occupied by single-family uses.
Can you raise your microphone? Sorry.
Tall people problems. I'll do my best to speak up. This map shows the general vicinity surrounding the request. Shown here. The UNCW campus is to the south with University Commons to the north. These are photos of the subject property. And these are photos of adjacent land uses looking across College Acres to the north and then down College Acres to the east and the west. The site is currently zoned R15 residential and was part of the 1999 annexation. East of the request are single-family homes zoned R15 residential. The UNCW campus, as mentioned, is located directly to the south. The Cottages at College Acres is located directly to the west, with College Acres Apartments located across College Acres Drive to the north. These are two previously approved conditional district rezoning projects. The applicant proposes to rezone the property from R15 residential to MFM CD multifamily conditional district for 36 units in three-story multifamily structures. Each unit contains 3 bedrooms. There's one driveway entrance on College Acres Drive, which is proposed, and a cross-access connection to the Cottages at College Acres to the west. A minimum of 81 parking spaces is required and a maximum allowance of 90 spaces is allowed. The applicant proposes a total of 113 off-street parking spaces. Here are the proposed building elevations that were provided by the applicant. The proposal is located within an area identified as an employment, academic, mixed-use center. It's near a regional retail mixed-use center and near a suburban commercial retrofit area of opportunity on the Comprehensive Plan's Growth Strategies map. The proposal is not consistent with the recommendations of the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan. The plan recommends development that creates places, streets, and spaces that are visually attractive, safe, accessible, functional, inclusive, have their own distinct identities, and maintain or improve desired character. Quality design and site planning should be promoted so that new development is implemented with minimal adverse impacts to neighborhood character while providing appropriate transitions between lower density neighborhoods and intense commercial uses. Infill sites within existing neighborhoods should be developed consistently with the design elements of nearby structures and in a manner that enhances or improves the character of the area. In order to maintain the residential character of the street and neighborhood, previous approvals have provided 2-story duplexes along College Acres Drive frontage, with denser residential development located to the rear. The proposed development includes constructing 3-story multifamily buildings along College Acres Drive, which is inconsistent with the previous approvals and the established development pattern of the street. Staff believes the proposed zoning amendment is not consistent with several of the policies within the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, nor the city's adopted focus areas, and believes the request is not reasonable nor in the public interest and recommends denial. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff at this time? I can't see everyone. There we are. Okay, no hands are up. Thank you. And the applicant is here? Ms. Wolf?
Thank you very much. Good evening. My name's Cindy Wolf, and I'm here on behalf of the 3 sets of owners that own these parcels, and of course, my client who is interested in developing it. The Cottages at College Acres was a project about 3 years ago now, and it was that project along College Acres Drive. There were several houses that had been rentals. They were in deteriorated standing as far as some of the storms that had gone through, and my client combined them all to create a housing community. As Pat pointed out, this is obviously in the university's bubble, and it made a whole lot of sense for generally college-oriented housing. At the time, though, obviously, College Acres Drive was and is still an access that comes through here from College Acres over to Racine. But it used to go straight through Racine and into the College Acres community. So people came and went. It was an access point. The changes to that intersection of Racine and College Acres so that, and you can't see it quite on the side of it here, are very directional. Now, you can no longer make left-hand turns from College Acres in either direction to Racine or to the university. And that has made a big difference, we believe, in creating that neighborhood between College Road and Racine Drive that has become the multifamily neighborhood. What we're trying to do, we don't believe, any longer affects what is College Acres and beyond Racine Drive. Those last two homes that are on College Acres Drive are owned by the university or the trust or whatever, but anyway, they are UNCW lots. We approached them certainly about including those lots into this into this project, and they declined. Phase 2, when we were working on it on the opposite side of College Acres Drive, really was a continuing effort. We had 4 lots, then the next person wanted in, then the next person wanted in. So we finally did what was ultimately being accomplished now, is got all of the area between the business along College Acres corridor and Racine to be part of this. Those lots that are the university-owned lots are used for visiting professors on occasion. As far as I know, they haven't been occupied for quite a while, but that is what they exist as. And we have been in conversations with the university as far as the status of them. They have no desire to sell them, but you'll find as I get into our more detailed site plan, we have agreed to put sidewalk in front of them to connect all of the pedestrian ways. This is the beginning of the first phase. This is the first phase of the cottages. As you can see, those duplexes line that section of College Acres Drive. It's a very nice project. This project proposed is phase 3 of that final project. It'll be the ownership and the management will be the same in the entire community, the phase 1, the phase 2 across the street, and the phase 3. So this really finishes out a project that it would have been nice had it been all at the same time, but it didn't work that way. So these last couple owners, they've watched everything work in around them. They're ready to get out, and we're trying to accomplish that for them. But the one thing I just want to point out here, although this is a nice product, I've heard similar comments about Ashton Heights over on Carr Avenue. At some point, you get too much of a nice thing. These duplexes are nice, they line the street. But after about 8 of them, you know, a little variety makes sense. And that's where we are with our plan. Zoning wise, the first project was an old commercial mixed use. There is a feature of commercial in it. That's why it's office and institutional, the multifamily medium across the road. And of course, we're requesting the multifamily medium here. This is the site plan colored up. We took a lot of care in this particular one because the front yards of these last 4 lots have a good bit of vegetation in them. It's flat, so we are proposing that instead of putting duplexes up along that frontage and taking all of these trees. This is a nice oak. I have some pictures later. This is, I believe, some crepe myrtles, a really big holly bush, some more crepe myrtles. So instead of lining these duplexes right up along the street, our concept here was to back it off. We've made these perpendicular to, if you notice, these aren't much wider than the duplexes are across the street, but it adds some variety. And because of that oak, this one was oriented that way. That's an existing magnolia we've worked into the plan also. Just along that frontage, whereas those duplexes are all lined up, obviously, as you're designing something, and this is the last piece of the puzzle, although all of these previous projects have been generally multifamily projects and you would expect the medium density, the density never washed out that way in phases 1 and 2. But in this final phase, it's an opportunity with land costs increasing, with construction costs increasing, to actually fit in a project that is reasonable and feasible to develop for those last 4 property owners.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. The 5-minute time limit on the applicant is right about now. So do you have some can you wrap it up?
Okay,
Final.
I apologize. I didn't know we were limited to 5. I thought it was 15 at the first presentation.
It was the
Okay.
statement I read
All
before.
right, you did. Thank you.
Yeah.
I will wrap it up just real quickly. Again, the buildings are the same as the buildings that are over on the opposite side. So there's basically three products. There is the duplexes that are here and here. There is a little variety with 3-story here, 3-story here, and then there are attached townhomes in the back. We believe that this is in fact consistent because it has created its own neighborhood. We are no longer affecting the character of a neighborhood. We are being inclusive in the neighborhood that's existing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant at this time? Commissioner Sharp?
What is the density of the first, the cottages phase 1 and phase 2?
Oh. The density on the first phase was, I believe, 14 units an acre. On the second phase, it was closer to 16. This is the exact 17 at 36 units.
And on,
Ultimately, we have 159 units in the complex.
so on phase 3, you are at 17 units?
That's correct.
And half of them face the parking lot in the back?
Well, as you could see by the elevations, whoops, all sides of the buildings have windows. So yes, I mean, 2 of them are perpendicular to College Acres Drive. 1 of them is parallel to College Acres Drive, but there are windows on all 4 sides of all buildings. So when you say face,
When the access doors are from the parking lot
Oh.
that is behind the other portions?
all right. Access doors are down the middle of these. So this access door is out to the parking lot, that is out to the street and the oak. We have everything connected. These are this way. That's one of the reasons why these are set back 35 feet. Unless there are access doors facing a street, you cannot encroach into that 35-foot multifamily setback.
So why in phase 1 and 2 did you put your parking lots amongst your construction site, and on this one, ring your project on 3 sides with excessive parking?
We don't believe that the parking is excessive, but certainly we want to hide it from the street. That's typical of our planning strategy, to hide the parking. But this particular case, if I had continued with these units along the frontage, those trees would not have been preserved. The parking would have looked just the same, and I suppose I could have lined those units up. This project doesn't flesh out with that type of product in the back. And yet we have other 3-story product in this project.
I don't want to dominate the questions. Can I have another opportunity?
Of course.
Okay, so explain to me why you are wishing to exceed the minimum and maximum parking requirements when one of your proposals is that it is accessible to the university and there will be less traffic generated.
We would continue to contend that because of the being primarily university students and the walkability of it. But we have gone through, obviously, this is our 3rd go-round at this type of a project. The very first project, we were what we believe underparked, but it was satisfactory. It compared to the college's statistic that of students that were in the university, about 68% of them had cars that were living on the university, and we met that criteria. The council was very concerned about the amount of parking that was there. On the second phase, we have, it is slightly underparked, but it is much closer to that criteria. On this one, we are proposing the 1 space per bed, but as a comprehensive project, we are still at a total of 505 beds and only 462 spaces. That being said, to satisfy the concerns that the council had about not being able to park. There is actually underway a remote parking lot that would basically complement the rest of it.
So the parking requirement says a minimum 81, a maximum of 90. You're proposing 113.
There are 108. I'm not sure where when I checked my plan, but
I'm sorry, I'm reading from the,
that's fine. It's in his staff report. Well,
so the 81 is the minimum and maximum is 90, and then you are requesting 113.
the code permits you to go 25% more than the maximum if they're impervious spaces. The site plan that is in your packet shows that the entire back row of spaces would be porous concrete or some type of porous pavement. We've already done soils testing as far as infiltration being our means of stormwater management. So yes, we are above the maximum listed in the parking standards, but we are not above the maximum permitted by code by right, as long as it's prescribed conditions of being porous pavement.
The other thing is that you're proposing to minimize the buffer.
Yes, just along this boundary right here, based upon preservation of that oak
how
and the
about-
use. I
and how
mean,
about
this
on- how
this
about
is
on the
an
part against the
institutional.
University line.
I'm sorry, sir.
The southern part. That,
No, there is no buffer along there.
it's
This is zoned office and institutional, the university.
parking right up to the lot line.
Yes, I mean, I usually provide at least 5, if not 8 to 10 feet from that, but there is a fence along the university property.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lennon?
thank you. This is the first time on Zoom, so I can't see anybody, so I apologize. Ms. Wolf, you were involved in the first and second phase, correct?
Yes, sir.
How many owner-occupied homes were in those respective phases?
I'm not aware of any. There was one across the street in phase 2. You can't see our map, but one of the homes over there was an occupied home by the owner, and he sold.
And in this proposed phase 3, how many owner-occupied homes are there?
There is one. Ms. Yarborough is there. She has been through this process with us all along for the past 3 years. And I sat down with her the other day, we had our mandatory community information meeting, which no one came to. And, you know, she has seen it all happen. She's ready to leave the neighborhood. And this is sort of the last man standing are these 4 lots, which there are 3 owners, but she is the only resident.
So from the area from Racine to essentially College Road, there will be 2 remaining single-family homes which are owned by the university, if I understand you correctly.
That's correct.
Okay. Which I guess we're not sure, but they don't appear to be occupied routinely.
That's correct.
Okay. And then could you just, and I apologize, I'm looking at the colored schematic you have of the 2 existing phases and the proposed one. Could you talk about the buffer again? Because I wasn't clear, Commissioner Sharp's question, which sides you were referring to.
I can't point for you, but basically along
Oh, I can
phase
see the
1.
mouse, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
Along phase 1, that is a setback, and those buildings have a 25-foot setback. There is no buffer yard requirement along there. There is no buffer yard requirement along here either, and there aren't buildings. So only the buildings have that minimum 25-foot setback along that boundary. The parking can extend all the way up to the boundary, but we would never do that. We always leave, all parking areas have to be at least 10 feet apart if they're on opposite sides. So 5 and 5 makes sense, and this is about 8 feet that I have off of the line to this parking. There would be still a buffer yard along the closest university lot, and we would propose to just do that as a fenced buffer yard based upon the fact that it's university-owned and used, not for single-family residential purposes. It's basically as visiting professors, an Airbnb, if you will, or some other means of commercial housing.
And my last question, I believe I heard you say these 3 phases, if this is a third phase is approved, would all operate under single ownership and management?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a quick question about this might be getting in the weeds a little bit, but I like how you've connected the parking lots with the first phase. It makes a lot of sense. The first phase is a one-way drive. Is that right?
Yes, it is. You can come in here and get back out, but this is all one direction. And then there's some perpendicular parking here.
And the proposed phase is two-way?
Yes, it would be.
Okay.
So there's good availability for circulation around here.
Yeah, we don't get a lot of opportunity to have that kind of interconnectivity with lots that run through here. So that's nice to see. And also the preservation of the trees up front. So. All right, are we good? Ready for public
Are
hearing?
they really trees of merit?
Are they really trees what?
Are they trees of merit or is this
Yes,
just-
they are. The oak is,
Do you
it's
have
low.
Do you have a picture of these heritage oaks?
It's not a heritage oak, but it is a large oak tree right in there. It's got a fairly good canopy. That's an amazing holly. The crepe myrtles are clusters. They're not huge, but they're on their way.
And the reason for going to a third floor on this section of your development is to increase density or because it's possible?
Increase of density makes the project feasible.
And they're all 3-bedroom apartments.
Yes, they would be.
Does that sound like 3 students or 6 students?
That can only be 3 students. When it's a well-managed project, they control that.
So it is prescribed that there is 1 student per sleeping unit.
That's my understanding, yes. They contract them that way, and they do contract them by the bedroom.
I have one more question. The first phase, I don't know if this is even possible to gauge with the pandemic we've just been through. Is it fully occupied? Tell me about the parking situation if you have some data on that.
It is just now being completed, the final
Okay.
stages, punch list, that sort of thing. It is ready for students to come in August.
In the fall, okay.
That's
Great.
correct. So, next month.
I remember
So,
being concerned about the parking on that one as well, so I think
yeah,
that's why
we don't have
allowed
any
the,
criteria to gauge that
parking.
yet until next year, until the fall when they're all here.
we rolled the dice on that with the data from other communities.
When, as I mentioned, they are being proactive about a remote lot.
Great. All right, commissioners, are we ready for a public hearing?
Is there,
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lennon? Is that you?
I apologize. I just have one more question if I could.
Sure.
Ms. Wolf, I'm just trying to get some history for the conversation that I'm sure is to come. In the presentation, it was indicated that the preservation of the quote-unquote neighborhood was a concern in approving this. Having been a part of the first 2 phases, was that concern raised at all?
It certainly was at the very beginning. Phase 1 the neighbors across the street, certainly Miss Yarborough, since she was the next lot down, voiced concerns at the public hearings and certainly at the community information meetings. My client was very proactive initially with those community meetings and conversations with the different neighbors. And during the first phase, a lot of people from the College Acres neighborhood beyond Racine came out and talked a good bit about this. As I said, we haven't had any interaction any longer from College Acres, the neighborhood beyond Racine. And I think a lot of that is there is now a very distinct barrier or separation between what is multifamily neighborhoods adjacent to the college and the single family neighborhoods, albeit some of them being rentals beyond Racine Drive, because those people can no longer come shooting through this to get out to College Road or to get home from College Road.
So there's a logical break, if you would.
That's our belief, yes, very much so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf.
Thank you.
All right, I will open the public hearing.
Can-
Do we
I
have
wonder
any?
if I could have one more question.
Oh, okay.
I wonder if the staff could go over why its concerns and why they would recommend denial of this.
In addition to the staff report and the
In addition to the
presentation
staff
that they
report,
made,
yes,
do you have
together-
any specific
yes.
questions that would help guide them to
Well-
go into a little more detail?
Let's point 9.5.5. Buffers and gradual building height changes should be used as transition between established neighborhoods and higher density development. Though this should not disrupt the prevalent connections between compatible and complementary land uses.
Thank you, Mr. Mahoney.
Yeah, Mr. Sharp, to answer your question, generally staff is supportive of higher densities in this area.
So are we all.
Right, and as we've seen the transition happen from College towards Racine, in general, we've been supportive of higher densities, but we have maintained trying to keep a residential block face along the street throughout these three phases of projects. So when the three-story multifamily came in, staff evaluated the proposal and determined that that was not in keeping with the theme of the street. Not to say that a different type of product, not to say it has to be duplex, but triplexes, townhomes might be more appropriate. And they have proposed, a three-story next to single-family homes as well. So we're just trying to continue to promote that development pattern along the street, and thus the recommendation for the denial.
I remember in discussions in earlier projects, there was a lot of concern about that there be two-story frontages and that they front door on the streets so that it rather than it become multifamily with invisible entrances.
Correct.
I'm not sure you were here at that time.
I was here for the phase 2 project. And as I said, we are supportive of continuing that residential feel of the street and of the corridor.
Can we look at 9.1.8? New development should reflect the context within which it is constructed, both in terms of architectural style and urban form. The adaptive reuse of unique buildings and landscape elements should be encouraged.
Yeah, what that one's referring to is really in the first sentence there, that any new development should really reflect the context of the area in which it's being constructed or proposed. So again, with the inclusion of the three-story multifamily along College Acres, we felt that was in conflict with the surrounding area that's been developed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
welcome.
they're very good points.
If I could, if you don't mind staying up there another minute. It sounds like, I just want to confirm what I'm hearing. It sounds like previously they were concerned, maybe the residents there in the single family homes before the first phase even, they were concerned about the surrounding character being the single family homes and kind of keeping with that. And now that we've got duplexes there, that's the character that we're trying to maintain, and that is what we're looking at now, just a few years later, as the character of the neighborhood. And so I don't think that they're looking at the multifamily in the context of single-family homes so much as
understand
what's there now. So would that,
Yeah, I'd say that's
Do you
generally
agree with
correct. Yeah.
It's a moving milestone. In
Right.
other words, the first was single family, and there was a discussion about maintaining that as a traditional approach. Now we're talking about duplexes and two-story along the streets, and that's now being the point of reflection there. And now we're talking about 3 stories with invisible entrances. Okay, so we're fundamentally changing the character of this street, and I'm not sure that 3 trees and a bush are really a good trade-off.
okay. Do you have any more questions before we start the public hearing? We'll deliberate after that.
Fine, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mahoney.
Yep.
All right. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this item? Nobody here to speak in favor. Did we have any public comments in favor on the website? Okay, nope. All right, we will now see if there's anybody in opposition to this item. Nobody here in opposition of the item to speak? Anybody from the public comments forums on the web? Okay, and that is a no from Ms. Bradshaw. The public hearing is closed, so we can pick up on the deliberations. Commissioner Bowman.
Well, Madam Chair, I've listened to the discussion, and I think it's a very good discussion. But I was here for all 3 actions, and I do remember Ms. Yarborough's testimony or comments, rather, previous rezonings. And, while we're maybe not supposed to consider single-family ownership versus rental or other situation, it was compelling, and that, I think, was a significant factor in scaling down some of the 2-story streetscape, 2 units wide, to be more in keeping with the neighborhood. But it's a neighborhood that's no longer going to be there, rental or home-owned. I think the other thing is I was a little bit reticent maybe on the first phase to have a one-way drive. And I think that's a reaction to the land width. If there were 5 feet more of land width, it might have been just a regular perpendicular 2-way drive. And the geometry of this site gets a little bit more challenging, tapering at the end. I don't know that it's wise to get into another one-way central parked project. So I don't really oppose the positioning of the pavement, nor do I the 3-story buildings, but I do appreciate saving the 2 oak trees.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner
I
Sharp.
don't hear any further discussions on agenda item number 1, the request for 4742, 4746, 4750, 4754 College Acres Drive, rezone from R15 residential to MFM CD multifamily conditional use. I move to recommend the rejection of this request as not consistent with the objectives and policies of the following plans adopted by the City of Wilmington. Namely, create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan. Secondly, the City of Wilmington Strategic Plan. The motion recommends that the planning commission would consider its rejection to be reasonable and in the public interest because the proposal is inconsistent with the established developmental patterns of the area and the design of the adjacent structure. Therefore, I recommend that this request for rezoning be rejected.
Thank you, Commissioner Sharp. Commissioner Sharp has moved to recommend rejection of this item. Do we have a second? Commissioner Cortez? Second the motion? We'll do a roll call vote for this. Commissioner Bowman?
No.
Commissioner Cortez?
Aye.
Commissioner Goins?
No.
Commissioner Lennon?
No.
Commissioner Sharp? Oh, Commissioner Sharp, you still have to vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Woodruff?
No.
And Commissioner Lyle? Aye. And the noes have it, so the motion does not pass. Do we have another motion? Commissioner Bowen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move to approve agenda item number 1, request for 4742, 4746, 4740, and 475, I'm sorry, 50 and 4754 College Acres Drive from R15 to residential MFMCD. And that this request is consistent with the objectives and policies of the following plans adopted by the City of Wilmington, Great Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, City of Wilmington Strategic Plan. And I will say those plans as if they were authored at this time, knowing what those parcels are being used for and approved for. The Planning Commission considers its approval to be reasonable in the public interest for those reasons, compatible with surrounding development that has recently transformed and provides additional housing in an appropriate area. Therefore, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this request.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We will take a roll call vote again. The motion on the table is to approve recommend approval for agenda item 1. Commissioner Bowman?
Aye.
Commissioner Cortez?
Nay.
Commissioner Goins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle, nay. Commissioner Sharp?
Nay.
And Commissioner Woodruff.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. 4-3 is my count. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 2. This one is a conditional district rezoning of the properties containing 0.28 of an acre located at 2166 Dexter Street and 2157 Wrightsville Avenue from CS Commercial Services and CB Community Business to O&I CD Office and Institutional to allow a primary school. And we have Mr. Mahoney up again to deliver the staff report.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The site is located on the corner of Dexter Street and Kent Street and contains approximately 0.28 acres. This map shows a general vicinity surrounding the request. And these are photos of the subject property and surrounding uses. And these are photos of the adjacent land uses looking across Kent Street and along Dexter Street. The site is currently zoned CS Commercial Services and CB Community Business and is part of the 1945 corporate limits. The site is surrounded by CB uses to the west, CS uses to the north, and O&I1 zoning to the south and east. The applicant proposes to rezone from CS, Commercial Services, and CB, Community Business, to O&I1 CD, Office and Institutional Conditional District, for a primary and secondary school. Parking is proposed on an adjacent property, which is included with this request, with a dedicated drop-off and pickup area. A one-way loop driveway entrance on Kent Street is proposed, and 7 parking spaces are provided. The Wrightsville Avenue 2030 plan's recommended land use map supports maintaining commercial uses at this location. The plan calls for the protection and enhancement of the unique character of the Wrightsville Avenue corridor while promoting pedestrian connectivity and visually appealing and appropriate commercial development. The site is located near an urban neighborhood node mixed use center and within a live work innovation zone area of opportunity on the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan's Growth Strategies map. The proposal is consistent with the recommendations of the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan. The plan calls for areas well suited for infill development to be developed in a way that maintains or enhances the desired character of the surrounding area, improves access to goods, services, and amenities, increases housing options, and improves the overall quality of life in the vicinity. The proposed school is in close proximity to existing services and located in a central location to serve the surrounding residential neighborhoods. Staff believes the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with several of the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan policies, the Wrightsville Avenue 2030 plan, and the city's adopted focus areas. Staff believes the request is reasonable and in the public interest and recommends conditional approval. If Planning Commission recommends approval of this request, staff suggests the conditions outlined in the case summary be applied. And that concludes staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, any questions for staff at this point? Okay, and the applicant's here?
Yes.
All right. Hello, my name is Amanda Wolf, and I am the owner of Peace Rose Montessori. I'm one of the directors, and I also am an elementary teacher and parent as well, all the things. So next slide. We have been operating for about 10 years this August. We started in my home, and then we moved to 2173 Wrightsville Avenue, which was the old Walls Galleria, which was vacant for 2 years before we transformed it into a school for young students under kindergarten. Totally beautified the backyard area, and we expanded. We opened up an elementary school, which is currently located at 717 Orchard Avenue in the Unity of Wilmington Church. And parents want to keep growing with us. So our proposal is in the fall going from ages 9 months to 7th grade. Currently, we operate with children 18 months old to 6th grade. We are a private school. We are small, so this is under 120 children. And we are regulated by non-public education. We have to go through zoning, fire, health, all of those regulations. Next. So this is one of our current campuses. We have names for all of them. So this is the Pine campus. And in the fall, we're looking to have 2 primary classrooms here. So this is what currently exists. Next slide. This is 2157 Wrightsville, which is in front of the Dexter building. This will eventually move on to obtaining a special use permit. It is residential right now, and we're looking to propose it to have a building be approved for our daycare preschool age. Next slide. And so currently that building is zoned CB. We're requesting a special use permit. That obviously isn't what we're talking about tonight, but it is a part of that larger project and is the building in front that would have the shared drop-off parking space. So this is the 2166 Dexter. This is what we call our Sunflower Building. And because we're a private school and we are Montessori, we do grades and ages a little differently. So when we say primary and secondary school, this would actually be first grade through third grade in one class, fourth grade through fifth grade in another class. And then this would be our first year that we would start our middle school, which is 6th, 7th, 8th, which has 8 children enrolled. Next year, that group would need to move to our Kent Street lot, which is at 2016 Kent Street. That is our parcel of land that we're looking to build on, but not quite yet. And so this building would hold 20, 30, about 35 to 40 students with 4 staff members. And previously, this building had actually been used for schools. There was a co-op school before us, and then a school for children with disabilities before that. Obviously, they never went through the proper permitting, and so we want this area to be a school. And in order to do that, we cannot have a school in CS, so we would like to move it to O&I, which across the street, our Kent Street lot is O&I. Our other Wrightsville building is CB. And so we're really on that nice end of Wrightsville that hugs Castle Street. We go on field trips, we take the bus to the library. I know COVID had shifted things for us, but Castle's really growing. The cargo district, you know, the neighborhoods, Carolina Place, we have parents bike, walk, drive to us. So it's really this beautiful small neighborhood school. And it's really great because we would be the only private Montessori school that offers upper elementary and middle school. So we're growing with our parents, and we would love to see this transformed into a school space. Next. So as it is currently CS, behind us, there's a lot of like auto mechanic shops, kind of just industrial, if you would like. And then past Kent Street are those small cottages that used to house families when the mill and that whole area was utilized in that way. In order to operate our small private school, we need the zoning changed. And so we proposed that. Like I said, we've been in operation for 10 years. We just want to do what's right. We just want to do what's going to be best for the students, for the families, for the community, for the land, drop off, pick up, everything. Next. This is our site plan. And so one of the biggest things about a school is that you have to drop children off and pick them up. What's interesting about that is it's very predictable times of day. So because we would have these 2 buildings here, we would stagger drop off, one group 7:45 to 8:15, one group 8 to 8:30. Obviously there are some siblings that would kind of overcross there. Parents don't really park and stay. Obviously we have to have parking for staff and parents for them to come in. But most of the traffic is during that drop off and pickup time. In the afternoon, it's 3 to 3:30. So it is predictable. We don't do big events at our campuses for our families. We usually rent out like the Hannah Block Arts Center or another place in town where we can house larger groups. There are a lot of great, beautiful trees that we're trying to preserve. I know adding a sidewalk is a part of our plan, which makes that a little challenging, but I know we can do it. And then parents can leave off to Wrightsville Avenue. Obviously, there's a lot of families that live down Kent Street as you move towards Wallace Park and Carolina Place, myself included. I plan on biking with my 2 children to class each day. And across the street, 2016 is our lot and 2173 is our lot. So it's really nice to have one cohesive campus where all of our parcels of land touch and are there. We have gardens, we have chickens, we have the creek that we care for with Cape Fear River Watch. So it's really nice to all be in one cohesive place again. Next. So something just to share, like I mentioned, the traffic flow, staggered drop off, it's very predictable. We outline all of our policies in our handbook. We are a small community, so if a parent does something that's not appropriate, we can approach them directly about it. Our parents are very cooperative and want to do the right thing. Obviously, the first couple of weeks of school is a learning curve, but we have a staff handbook and parent handbook to share that. Our properties are safe and up to code. We've been very well versed in making sure everything is good, whether it's at the daycare level or at the middle school level. We've been in business for a while, and we just really want to expand our school and just grow with our families, be a part of the neighborhood. This is a small private community school, so we're not on the same level as, say, New Hanover or Cape Fear Academy. We are small. And so I think that's it. Next slide. And that is. So I'd love to answer any questions you may have about the project.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? I have a quick question. You mentioned the facility you're planning to build. Is that going to be in addition to what you're requesting tonight, or you are going to move eventually? What you're requesting tonight is temporary, and you're going to be moving out of that.
Yeah, so what we're talking about at Dexter is housing our elementary and middle school kids right now. At the Wrightsville Avenue would be infant and toddler. Now, this is the first year that we have middle schoolers, and typically in a Montessori school, it takes 3 years to really grow a program because you have mixed ages. So for example, our 21 students in lower elementary isn't all first graders, it's first, second, third. So looking ahead, we know that as our middle school grows, and we've had a lot of interest, even to the point where people are like, start a high school, where we're going to need to start looking next year to plan for the growth in the next 2 to 3 years. And so what we're looking at next year is to use our Kent Street lot, for playground space, put a fence in there. Middle schoolers just love a field to play ball, whatnot. But down the road, we want to be able to use that site to put a structure on there. I have talked to building about a yurt, which they're like, that's an interesting one. And like a prefab, like school, like module trailer in a sense that is nicer and more modern. And it's still small. So our middle school program would be like 15 to 20 students. We're not talking, Williston. And so that would also allow us to put a parking lot on that land as well, to kind of create a more cohesive.
Great, thank you. We'll take a pause for the technical issue. Commissioners, any more questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lennon?
I just want to confirm what I think I read in the packet. This location's been a school twice previously.
I think is that correct? She's nodding. She doesn't have a microphone.
Okay.
But yes, it sounds like they
Okay.
had, previously had a school there, but didn't get the proper zoning or permits.
Yeah,
Okay.
the school that was there was Wilmington Cooperative School, and I know they operated partially for 4 hours a day, which I know is regulated differently than if you operate for more than 4 hours. And before that, Mr. Hodges, who's the landlord, who's in our lease actually proposed a lease to own option, so we can buy both properties of land, which would be great to continue to establish our school. He said originally he built it to be like an alarm company, and that didn't work out. And he said it was a school for children with disabilities, and then it was a church. There was the stage, purple carpet, and so those are kind of the uses it was used for. But the original used to be more of an industrial alarm company. It never was that. So to be a 8-hour-a-day school, it has not done that, but it has been used for school purposes. So you had traffic, you had kids, you had all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf. We have another Ms. Wolf.
Not related.
All right, well, we will open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this item? Nobody here? Anybody, any comments on the web form, Ms. Bradshaw? Nope. All right, now we'll move to any in opposition of item number 2. Anyone here to speak in opposition? Nobody here. How about on the public comments? Nope. All right, commissioners? The public hearing is now closed. Commissioner Bowman.
Well, I think it's a very interesting adaptive reuse of some very tight properties. And I appreciate the will to clean up the paperwork.
Well said. And I commend your success on starting your own school and
It's-
growing it. Sounds like it's
It's
very
been wonderful.
great
Yeah.
programming and in demand. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because there's not a lot of Montessori schools in town, and with a lot of people that are transplants from bigger cities. I'm from the West Coast originally, where there's Montessori schools like Starbucks on the corner. People know the name, and there's not very
That's
many
right.
in Wilmington. So it's really nice to be able to offer that and offer these upper elementary ages that really don't exist here in Wilmington right now.
Thank you. You can certainly be seated now.
Thank you.
We've kept you up here long enough. Thank you. Commissioners? Comments? A motion? Regarding agenda item 2? Commissioner Bowman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Move to approve agenda item 2, which is a request to rezone from CS and CB and Waco to O&I CD. And keeping, I guess, the Wrightsville Avenue corridor for the time being anyway. And that this request is consistent with the objectives and policies following adopted plans, Great Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, Wrightsville Avenue 2020 Plan, City of Wilmington Strategic Plan. And the Planning Commission considers its approval to be reasonable in the public interest because the proposal is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and will provide additional services for area residents. And therefore, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this request with the 6 recommendations from the staff report.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second from Commissioner Sharp. And we will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bowman,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortez,
Aye.
Commissioner Goins,
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon,
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle, aye, Commissioner Sharp,
Aye.
and Commissioner Woodruff.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may interrupt in between items.
Yes, Commissioner Bowman.
I believe I failed to include the 6 staff recommendations in the item number 1 approval, which appear to be just the basic boilerplate stuff, but it was a conditional request and it's conditional to the site plan. But I'd like to include those 6 items if I could clarify that at this point and maybe recast the vote, and maybe you or Sean could direct on
Thank you.
what's appropriate.
Mr. Attorney, how would you like us to proceed?
I didn't catch it either. I think it's appropriate to do that. That'd be fine. Just accept an amended motion on the first item in favor of, and if Mr. Bowman would like to restate that, I don't think we need to repeat the consistency statements as that's already been read. But
Yes, for the approval of agenda item number 1, as stated, but with the amended correction to include the 6 staff recommendations in the report, the conditions of the report.
Mr. Attorney, you want us to vote again? I'm assuming.
yes, Madam Chair.
All right, and we'll have to get that second again.
So, sorry, we are voting on the inclusion of the 6 items or back on the original proposal.
We're voting on the same motion, but with the only addition of the conditions that were in the staff report.
So,
It's mostly a formality.
Yeah, just house cleaning. I apologize. It was my fault.
No, it's not.
It's a team effort on that one.
All we're doing is clarifying the 4-3 vote, or are we revoting the 7 of us?
We're going to we're going to take another vote.
Fine, thank you.
Yes. All right. So we will take another vote on that one. Commissioner Bowman,
Aye.
Commissioner Cortez,
Nay.
Commissioner Goins,
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon,
Aye.
Lyle, nay, Commissioner Sharp,
Nay.
and Commissioner Woodruff.
Aye.
The vote is the same, 4-3.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for catching that. All right, item number 3, a general rezoning for the property containing 0.15 of an acre located at 1215 Orange Street from R5 residential to R3 residential. And our staff report is going to be by Mr. Walton.
Thank you. So built in 1920, the house located at 1215 Orange is a contributing structure, register, according to the Sanborn Fire Insurance maps between 1915 and 1951, a one-story dwelling and a one-story store/gas station were built on the property. Sometimes between 73 and 1994, the commercial structure was removed, but the residential structure remains. This regional map gives you an idea of the location of the site itself near Williston Middle, MLK, and New Hampshire High School. These are some of the views of the site from Orange Street and South 13th Street. The original house there is in the foreground or background. These are some of the photos surrounding the property. As you can see, it's all residential development. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from R5 residential to R3 Central City residential. If rezoned, the R3 would allow a subdivision of 3 33-foot wide lots or 1 duplex on a single lot at the subject site. There is no minimum lot size for single-family lots in R3, only the 33-foot wide minimum. The comprehensive plan supports new residential development that is compatible with the existing neighborhoods and protects the desired character of the area. It further encourages increasing residential density within close proximity to services. The site is also located within the planned boundary of the South Side Small Area Plan. The plan supports maintaining residential character of the area and recommends that the HDR, the Historic District Residential, be expanded into this area. The proposal is consistent with many policies of the plan. Based on the information contained in the case summary, the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, the Southside Small Area Plan, and the City Strategic Plan, staff believes the request is reasonable and in the public interest and recommends approval of the request. I'd also like to remind you that we included a use-by-use comparison in your staff reports between the existing R5 residential as well as the proposed R3. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Sharp?
In the attachment, there is a drawing that shows 2 lots, an existing main house with a lot size of 48 foot by 106, and a second lot.
You're not quite close enough to your microphone.
Sorry. In the attachment, there is a design where the 99-foot frontage is divided into 2 lots. One with a frontage of 48 foot and one with a frontage of 51 foot. Is this the implied use and division of this, or simply an example?
Keep in mind that this is a general rezoning. There are no site-specific conditions, any sort of site plan. The plan that you're looking at is provided by the applicant. And so it may be their intention to keep the structure and subdivide it once, as stated in the plan. But there's nothing conditionally that we can impose as far as conditions or any sort of items like that, since this is just a general rezoning.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Walton? And the applicant's here, you said? Oh, Mr. Goins, did you have a question for staff? Do we need to get him back up here?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Are the adjacent lots, are they also R3?
I'll bring it up. So the adjacent lots are all zoned R5. In your staff report, we did note the existing lot sizes, which are all consistent with an R3 type zoning, but the zoning zones currently are R5, which are limited to 5,000 square feet for a developable lot.
Okay, so the lots are R5, but they're sized for R3. Is that correct?
They are not zoned. The surrounding lots are not are less than 5,000 square feet. So they're buildable and allowed to continue to be buildable since they've existed for a very long time. But the applicant is proposing to be able to subdivide this property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walton.
Thank
Okay. Hear from the applicant now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe DiLiberto. I'm one of the applicants. I want to thank you for your time tonight. Our plan is to keep the existing home and renovate it. And then with the lot, if it is approved, to put up another home, a period of the neighborhood. So that's really our plan. We are in the process of renovating the house 1215 right now. And we would like to put up another house and get rid of the kind of like an eyesore corner there with the empty lot. So,
And when I submitted the plan and I think the question was, well, we're going to keep it as 2 lots or tear down the house, but we would subdivide the lots as close to the 48 and 51 feet as possible so that we could maintain the character of the neighborhood within a foot or two, depending on how the curb cut for the house would lay out.
Thank
any
you.
questions?
And commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll open the public hearing now. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this item? Greg's going to get him. Okay, good. They're on their way?
No.
Oh, they're in the next room to speak? Oh, great. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Abdul Sharif. I live at 208 South 13th Street, which is between Orange and Ann, as you would head south. I also own the property at 204 South 13th Street and 202 South 13th Street, which is on the corner of 13th and Orange. It would be on the southwest corner. I just have a question for clarity to the applicant on that 0.15 acre. Is he planning on building one house or more than one house? I know he said one house, but there were a lot of specifics left out. If he could clear that up for me and what the actual commission will be approving. Will it be
Sure,
approving
that's
to
a
build one house or more than one house?
great. We will absolutely address your question at some point. But public hearing's open now, so we'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
And the applicant will get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. That was the only person. Any comments on the web? No. In favor or against? Anyone else here to speak? Anyone here to speak against this item? Nobody at all? The public hearing is closed, and I'm going to go ahead and address Mr. Shreve's question. The applicants did state their intentions, and regarding the Planning Commission's decision, our decision is based on the most intense use of the zoning district. So because this is a general rezoning, we are looking at the most intense use of the property and whether that's appropriate here. And that would be 3 units maximum. Not that we doubt the intention of the applicant, but that's just part of the process since it's a general rezoning. And if you wanted to speak to that, certainly, okay.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, the public hearing is closed, so commissioners, go ahead.
So does the applicant need the rezoning to accomplish what they wish to do? They own the lot, they have a building that they're renovating, and there is a excessive amount of land to one side.
Mr.
Can they
Chambers?
do that without rezoning?
They do not have enough lot area for 2 5,000 square foot lots at this point. So no, they would need the rezoning to subdivide.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
I have a question for Mr. Chambers to follow up on his comment. Under R3 zone, are there provisions for duplexes or triplexes or accessory apartments? And if so, is our rewrite of the land development code not necessarily requiring additional land area for some of those uses?
I do not have the new code in front of me. Perhaps someone else has a better memory than I do. The R3 does allow for duplex, triplex, quadruplex, but so does the R5. It would just be a different lot size requirement in the R3, a smaller lot size requirement.
Okay, could I extend that to Mr. Satterfield beside me?
I was grabbing my mic,
That's
Mr.
right.
Bowman. Current code, R3, if rezoned, would require for a duplex 4,500 square feet. It's the minimum lot size, 3,000 plus half, so it'd be 4,500 square feet. The proposed code is eliminating that additional lot and a half standard for a duplex, so they could conceivably do a 3,000 square foot, have a duplex on a 3,000 square foot lot or a 4,000 square foot lot. Does that answer your question?
Yes, the point being that the density can be achieved in the current zoning, but given that one house is already a self-contained unit, makes more sense to have it detached rather than duplex. So I understand the nature of the request. I just wanted to add a little clarity to the new zoning rules that we hope to move toward.
I believe we're requiring 2,000 square foot per unit.
Okay, so if they have 6,500 square feet, okay, so they would still be short about 450 square feet, I guess, in that scenario. If there are 5 now and you need 2,000 extra, you need 7,000, they have 6,500 and some.
Correct. And I'm actually looking up the dimensional standards
Yeah, okay.
in the proposed code.
Well, the corners are, corner lots like this in these tiny subdivided areas seem to be more typically built out as a square house rather than a long, narrow house from the development pattern I've seen. But we've already got a house on part of that, which doesn't really allow for that.
Correct. And Ms. Bowman, to answer your question, in the new code, a duplex would need in R5, 7,000 square feet. Current code in R5, a duplex would need 7,500 square feet.
Okay. All right. Well, it improved, but not quite enough.
And in the proposed code, a duplex would need 4,000 square feet. A triplex would need 6,000 square feet.
Okay. So, they could redevelop under the existing ordinance and just go back with a duplex to get 2 dwelling units. So the density is achievable, but I don't know why anybody would want to not, work with the existing resources and embodied materials there.
Great question. Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Commissioner Sharp, did you have a question or motion?
I think it's important to, am I on?
Yes.
I think it's important to trust citizens, and I hear the gentleman and the lady say that they're going to develop, preserve the old house and build another one beside it. So I recommend an Agenda 3, the request for 1215 Orange Street rezone from R5 residential to R3 Central City rezoning. I move to recommend the approval of this request that is consistent with the objectives and the policy of the following plans adopted by the City of Wilmington. Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, City of Wilmington Strategic Plan, Southside Small Area Plan. The Planning Commission considers its approval to be reasonable and in the public interest because it's an infill possibility. The proposed rezoning would allow for a lot configuration that is consistent with the development pattern of the northern block face of 1200 block of Orange Street, and therefore the Planning Commission recommends approval of this request.
Thank you. Commissioner Sharp has moved to recommend approval for Agenda Item 3. Commissioner Goins?
Second.
Thank you. We have a second from Commissioner Goins. And we will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Bowman?
Aye.
Commissioner Cortez?
Aye.
Commissioner Goins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Commissioner Lyle, aye. Commissioner Sharp?
Aye.
And Commissioner Woodruff?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Glenn, can we track this one to see?
We're going to take a 5-minute recess.
The whole idea of trust is fundamentally dangerous thing in public life. Can we track this?
Commissioners, can you turn your cameras on? We're about to start. Up again. Got it. I'm going to call us back to order. Sorry for the delay. We're going over some procedural things for the public hearing, so we'll get to that later. And now we are on to agenda item number 4. It's a general rezoning for property containing 15.62 acres located at 2430, 2370, 2374, and 2346 Carolina Beach Road and 2365 Washington Street from CB Community Business and CS Commercial Service to MFMH Multifamily Medium High Density Residential. And Mr. Walton is up for our staff report.
Thank you. So the subject property was annexed into the city effective December 27th, 1964, and at the time was zoned R2, which is considered multiple family districts way back then. The Starway Drive-In Theater, located on the larger rear portion of the property, opened in 1955 with a car capacity of 700 vehicles and closed in 1985. The Starway Flea Market opened shortly thereafter and is currently operating on site. On May 3rd, 1994, City Council rezoned this site from multifamily medium to CB, which is community business. At the time, the Starway Flea Market was operating as a non-conforming use. This image shows you the general location of where this property is located along Carolina Beach Road, adjacent to the Sunset South neighborhood. These are some of the adjacent photos, or excuse me, these are some of the site photos of the existing conditions. These are some of the adjacent uses along Carolina Beach Road, and the site does stub to Sunset South. So I included some of the adjacent photos, including where the stub street is to the subject site. The applicant requests to rezone the property from community business and commercial services to multifamily medium high density. 2 vehicular access points exist on Carolina Beach Road, as well as a stub street along the rear property line, which is Maryland Avenue, that connects to the Sunset South neighborhood. The site does not front a signalized intersection along Carolina Beach Road, but interconnectivity from Maryland Avenue to Bell Street could bring potential traffic to the signal at Carolina Beach Road, Medical Center Drive. This section of Carolina Beach Road does operate at a level of service F. The NCDOT has an active traffic improvement project in this area that will be installing traffic improvements and control measures along Carolina Beach Road. Those plans are still in the design phase, but they're expecting the build out to occur in 2029. Work includes upgrading driveways, sidewalks on both sides of the street, a raised median within the right of way, as well as left turn lanes at most of the street intersections. The site is identified as being within a suburban commercial retrofit area of opportunity, a mixed-use place, a community connector complete street, a transit-oriented mixed-use center, and a high-capacity transit route. The comprehensive plan calls for fostering a public realm that encourages complete streets and development forms that give equal weight to pedestrian comfort and vehicular movement. The site is located within an area that is near commercial services, it's near medical services, and within an existing high-capacity transit route along Carolina Beach Road. The proposed multifamily zoning presents an appropriate transition from the commercial areas on Carolina Beach Road to the existing residential uses to the west in the Sunset South neighborhood. Though the site presents an opportunity to provide affordable housing units, the applicant has not mentioned that in the application or submitted plans for a conditional district rezoning request. The proposed general rezoning is consistent with the recommendations of the Creighton-Wilmington Comprehensive Plan and the City Strategic Plan. However, the plan would discourage concentrating low to moderate income housing in one location rather than the preferred of mixed incomes across all boards for a typical multifamily development. Based on the information, the staff believes the request is reasonable and in the public interest, and we recommend approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you. And applicant is here.
Good evening again. I'm Cindy Wolf, and here on behalf of the owner. There we go. Large development tracts, especially with hardly any existing improvements, are certainly few and far between in the city today. I think this would certainly be considered an underutilized site, and it is ideally located for residential use. All of the things Jeff talked about, and certainly all of the amenities around it, and the fact that it was multifamily zoned at one point in time. The zoning, as you can see, is CB and CS. And again, in your staff reports, there is a long list of the types of uses that this could be developed with, although it's underutilized now. And then just that, as you can see by the staff report, multifamily development has quite a few points of consistency with the comprehensive plan. That all being said, it's not the same as trying to come here and get a commercial district as a rezoning. We are down zoning this to a multifamily, and multifamily is pretty much the bulk of the type of use that you would expect to have here. So I have with me Ted Hilbrun and Brad Queener, and they'd just like to address a little bit of our proposed future for this site.
Thank you, Cindy. If we could go to the next slide, please. Great. I'd like to start tonight's conversation by acknowledging the housing gap that exists today in Wilmington. Attached here is a summary of the housing needs assessment commissioned by New Hanover County and completed in March of this year that shows a housing deficit of nearly 4,600 rental units for households with incomes between 30 and 80% AMI. The multifamily apartment project that we're intending here, that this rezone allows for, is intended to target a specific portion of this deficit. The site on Carolina Beach Road contemplated tonight's rezoning request stood out to us for two important reasons. First, we felt strongly that our apartment use would fit well within the goals of the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan and the city's strategic plan. We also chose this site because the opportunities and access it will allow for the tenants of our project. New Hanover County encompasses 328 square miles, but the truth is that only a small portion of it would allow a workforce tenant to have access to critical amenities and convenient commutes to quality employment opportunities. The site is minutes from downtown, from the port, from the New Hanover Regional Medical Center and the university, and is serviced by a Wave Transit bus stop directly in front of the property. In short, we believe our use is well situated within the city's planning objectives, and the site is well situated for the needs of our tenants. There are some common misconceptions about workforce housing, and I want to spend a minute tonight talking a little bit about who our tenants are and why it's so critical that housing solutions that they can afford are made available to them. Like all other 4% tax credit projects in the state of North Carolina, we will have a project that targets 60% AMI tenants, or a mix of tenants that average to 60% AMI. 50, 60, and 70% AMI households in New Hanover County have LIHTC income limits that differ by household size, as you see here. Turning the page, I want to highlight some of the occupations here in the city that have starting compensation consistent with 50 to 70% AMI levels. Our tenants fill critical roles within the public safety, healthcare, hospitality, and retail industries, amongst others, which enable the quality of life enjoyed by all of Wilmington's residents. The unspoken social contract here in the US is that if you work hard and play by the rules, you'll be able to find quality, affordable housing, and unfortunately, wages have not kept pace with the cost of housing over the last few decades. That's across the US. Tax credit projects like this one that we are contemplating for Carolina Beach Road are intended to keep our tenants from spending more than 30% of their pre-tax income on housing costs, and in turn allow them to save money towards a future down payment on the purchase of a home. Finally, I want to highlight our team's experience. Our team has developed over 25 tax credit projects across the Carolinas. And I'd like to close by saying that we look forward to the potential opportunity to bring more workforce housing to Wilmington and are available tonight to answer any questions that the commission may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hilburn. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant at this time? I can't see you all yet on Zoom, so hold on. Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? All right. Thank you. We're going to open the public hearing at this time, and we have several speakers for this item. And instead of sticking with the 10 minutes per for opposition and 10 minutes in favor of, we're going to ask each speaker to limit their time to 3 minutes so that everyone can be heard who has shown up here today. So, and they have been informed of that, and when they'll be here in the room with us, and Mr. Harbeck is going to be our timer, so just keep your eye when you come in, just keep your eye on Mr. Harbeck, and he'll give you a little hand signal when you're getting close to the 3 minutes or it's about up. So we'll start with you. Go ahead, Mr. Whitney.
Yes, good evening. My name is Stephen Whitney, and I am my address is 1107 Eldora Court in Leland. I don't live in Wilmington or New Hanover County, but I have, since I've retired here about 10 years ago, I've been very active in a number of organizations that involve Wilmington and New Hanover County. I've been particularly involved with the housing organizations, and I currently represent the Cape Fear Housing Coalition. I have also have a career in architecture and design and planning, and I've actually participated in the design and construction of affordable housing units in my career in New York State. This particular project is very interesting to this community. It's in a very ideal location in terms of employment and other services. And the Housing Coalition is very supportive of the application to have this land rezoned to multifamily use, and would love to be able to see this project go forward and the ideas that the developer has proposed in trying to achieve affordable housing for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Whitney. Welcome. Mr. Harbeck is your timer, so he'll give you a little hand wave when you're getting close to 3 minutes.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Katrina Knight, Executive Director of Good Shepherd Center, also currently the Chair of the Cape Fear Housing Coalition. I'm an advocate for affordable housing because the lack of it in our community is the #1 reason that we meet families, veterans, seniors, and others who have lost their housing and need our safety net. The recently completed comprehensive housing study by the city and New Hanover County found that 1 in every 2 of our neighbors is spending too much on their housing, leaving them vulnerable to not only losing their housing, but also having too little to spend on food, medications, and other necessities for their well-being. The study also estimated our current affordable housing shortage to be 10,000 units, not 1 or 2,000, 10,000 units, and that's a pre-COVID number, really. As a community, we work to create units, 24 here, 40 there, but we are losing affordable units faster than we can bring them online. Bradley Development and Kelly Development Companies proposed almost 300 unit development would go so far in moving the needle to address our affordable housing crisis that they've expressed a commitment to making them 100% affordable, and for residents at about 60% area median income. That's the sweet spot. That's what we need more than anything. This community runs on workers who earn $9, $10, $11 an hour, or salaries well under $40,000 a year. And we have a responsibility to ensure that they have options to live in the very community that they serve. The market will address the needs of higher earners. Our family members, our neighbors, our employees need our help to ensure their access to quality and affordable rental housing in our very expensive city. Thank you for your service and for paving a path to that access by supporting Bradley and Kelly Development Company's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Knight. Welcome, Ms. Redmond. Glenn Harbeck is going to be your timer. He'll wave his hand when you're getting close to 3 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be here. I do not have much of a voice, so it will be very, very short in that I would like to echo the sentiments that you have just heard from the other Katrina in town. We do have a very big need for workforce housing. This property, if it brought that housing, would make a nice start of what we need in our community. But there's one other aspect I want to talk about. As you all know, as we drive up and down Carolina Beach Road, we see all the commercial uses out front. We know that there are single family homes behind that. And actually the Sunset South is single family homes, which also includes a small multifamily development. And I think a development like this makes a great impact because it acts as a buffer between the commercial uses along the road, the single family homes behind, and then you have all the amenities that you would want families to have in this community. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop unless you have a question.
Thank you for all the effort it took for you to get here and speak tonight. Anyone else in favor? No one else in attendance in favor. Ms. Bradshaw, do we have anybody else, through the public comments on the web for? Okay. All right, well, we'll move on to those opposed to this item. Mr. Harbeck will be your timer. He's in the white shirt there, so just keep your eye on him. When you get close to 3 minutes, he'll let you know.
Good evening. My name is Susan Shalhoub. I live in Sunset South, which is an abutter of the property in question. I did submit written comments. You had 2,200 character limit, so it's in 4 pieces. And I'm sorry for that. I have it in one document if you'd like that. I have testified in front of City Council, as have our HOA executive board members, in favor of the city's policy on creating additional affordable workforce housing. And I continue to support that. But this project is not it. And the reason it isn't is, number one, there's no guarantee they're going to get the tax credits they need as part of their planning process. They're not here for a conditional zoning application. And so the most important problem I have is the site. And this is the most treacherous part of Carolina Beach Road. And indeed, if you look through the entire length of Highway 421, and for people who don't know, 421 is called Carolina Beach Road. It's so treacherous and notorious that the state has been working on a plan to try to mitigate the hazards for not only vehicular traffic, but most importantly, pedestrians. Now, it seems to me that part of the thought process of the staff here is they're assuming that this STIP, the State Transportation Improvement Project, U-5729, is actually going to happen. We all want to see it happen. It will make that area so much safer for pedestrians, but it might never happen, just like the Cape Fear Crossing. When I bought my house, I had to sign a statement acknowledging that I was told there was going to be a bridge built by 2014, and I might be able to see it from my backyard, and we all know what happened with that. And so I would encourage you to put the decision on hold if you think you're going to approve this general zoning application, and come on out to that stretch of Carolina Beach Road and imagine what it would be like for children. Please don't bring your children because it's so dangerous. And imagine them trying to cross to get over to Legion Stadium Pool, which kids do, and it's scary. Go over to the skate park, play along the front of their complex, because a complex that large, 300 up to 390 units, no matter affordable or not, there are going to be families living in there with children. And until the problems along that stretch are solved, it's premature to rezone this. And while there may have been some type of multifamily zoning back in the 60s, when they did the land development code, I think sometime in the 80s, it was zoned what it is now.
Thank you,
And
Michelle. You've gone over your time limit.
and
So.
sorry about that. The new zoning code keeps it at the functional equivalent of what it is. And so, please read my comments.
Thank you for coming out tonight. And we do have them, and all the commissioners have seen them, and they will be passed on to City Council. Anyone else opposed to this item? Mr. Harbeck in the white shirt over here is going to be your timer, so just keep your eye on him when he'll raise his hand when you're about at 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
My name is Jessica Leamy, and I currently reside at 2370.
Can you get a little closer to the microphone? There
Sorry.
we go. Thank you.
My name is Jessica Leamy, and I currently reside at 2370 Carolina Beach Road. I'm a tenant at that property, and I know I speak for myself, but also the 2 other tenants, 2374 and 2370B, in regards to this rezoning. We're all losing our housing, and one is actually losing his livelihood and will have to rezone and find a new place for his business. So we're opposed to this affordable housing development plan. Caroline Beach Road is also very busy, but you're putting two people out of homes and one's business is going out of business by making this decision. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Harbeck in the white shirt will be your timer, so just keep your eye on him. He'll let you know when you're around 3 minutes.
All right, thank you. Good evening. My name is Nicholas Stilley. I live in the area, or in the area of where this development's going to be in Sunset Park. And I just have a few comments on this. One being that I'd very much like to see the flea market remain. I've been going there since probably the better part of my life. I interact with people there all the time. There's plenty of people who are just getting by as best they can, and they just go around selling their wares, trying to make their way. I also I'm trying to figure out where I'm going here. Not the most coherent, sorry. Geez, where am I going with this? I just think that this is atrocious. I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think we should go through with it. In all honesty, after hearing about what the plan is, the purpose to build lower income housing for people earning in the bracket of, or in the lower bracket of, say, $30,000 to $50,000. I'm one of those kind of people. I work with these kind of people. They just don't bother renting places. They just go to another area to just buy an actual house. My point is that I just think this is not a good idea. I got nothing for you. Thank you for listening. Are you on my time?
Thank you, Mr. Stilley.
Thank you very much. Yes. Have a good one.
Anyone else here opposed to the item? One more. Mr. Harbeck in the white shirt is going to be your timer. He'll let you know with his hand when you're getting close to your 3 minutes.
All right. Well, my name is Patrick Barnes, and I've been in the city for pretty much my whole life. And I'm really concerned about the project here. Number one, the traffic is just horrendous in that area. The DOT has gave that a failing grade in that complete area. That now they say Adams Street is a area, but I mean, once you get all this traffic in here, Adams Street's gonna turn into that same failing grade probably that Carolina Beach Road, gets right now in that very same area. I mean, and even to prove my facts, all you need to do is try to ride down through there about 9 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And, I challenge y'all to ride down through there, kind of see what's going on. And before you make this vote, I mean, I'm asking y'all to please just put the vote off for now and research this a lot more. Also, I'm a vendor out at the Starway Flea Market. And I mean, I see firsthand if there's not 1,000 people that go through the gate on every Sunday that are trying to get, goods that they might not be able to afford full price. They might be looking for a deal. There's, a lot of different people that really go out to the flea market and, it sustains the vendors that are selling. It sustains the people that are, needing a good deal on stuff. And there, maybe there's a different option for this area rather than all this housing, right there. Maybe they could turn it back into a drive-in movie theater. It was in '96 that somebody was trying to reopen it, and there was one lone dissenting vote, and that was Charlie Ravenbark said, we don't want to do anything past 11 o'clock. Well, on a hot summer night, it gets dark about 9 o'clock. You've got a 2-hour movie. It's going to run past 11 o'clock. I mean, these are, it's a new time where we can kind of reinvent our old ideas and, do something better. I was talking to my friend about it, and he said he remembers way back in I guess it was about 1985, coming from Leland. Him, his brother, and his sister, all three of them, they were in the back with an adult, of course, riding from Leland in the back of a truck, going to see E.T., the extraterrestrial, and he told me about that story, and I just kind of laughed, and he said one even better than that. He said, no lie, we're not old people. He said, I remember going and seeing Old Yeller there at the very same drive-in. I mean, I think we should try to envelop some other idea, on this thing. I'm kind of asking the planning board just to kind of pump the brakes a little bit. I mean, Wilmington's getting full. Affordable housing sounds great, but as I was researching it, it says that y'all can't get anything in writing that says it's going to be affordable housing. In the end, people talk that talk, but are they really going to walk that walk is kind of my question. And I believe that's about it. I mean, I appreciate my time, and like I say, I just ask y'all to just pump the brakes, take a little bit of time. That we only found out about this on the 30th of June, and so we've not had much time to even digest it yet. But I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Anyone else here in opposition? No one else is here in opposition, and we did receive the one public comment form from Ms. Shalhoub, and I believe that was our only one, at least as of 3 o'clock today. Ms. Bradshaw confirmed, and that will be passed on to, that is, all the planning commissioners have had the opportunity to read that today, and city council will also be provided with those comments. So public hearing is now closed. And I would love for the applicant to come on back up and we can address some of the concerns. I would love to start, especially for those who are not as familiar with the LIHTC process, for you to share a little bit about what's required and where you are in the process for applying for that.
Would you like me to start with my name is Brad Queener, by the way. Would you like me to start with the process, kind of like just a general overview of how the program works?
Exactly,
And then go
just
from there?
the process and kind of where you are in it, and why you need this rezoning, especially for that application.
For our application, the property needs to have the proper zoning or it will not be accepted by the state. So that's step one. I say that, I'm sorry, it will not be approved by the state. We can submit subject to having the proper zoning at the time of the award. In summary, the tax credit program was created in the Tax Reform Act of 1986. The state housing authorities are allocated tax credits from, I guess, the Treasury. Those tax credits are allocated to developments. We as developers take those credits and sell them, say 90 cents on the dollar. The investor, the buyer of the credit, gets a dollar for dollar reduction on their tax bill, and they also enjoy the passive losses associated with depreciation and amortization of the apartment community. In return for that equity, that allows us to have a smaller mortgage. It kind of flows upstream. So we are that allows us to charge lower rents because we are being a good portion of our financing is the equity from the sale of the tax credits. So we have a lower mortgage, lower debt service that flows upstream through the operating pro forma for lower rents for the tenants. And that's kind of the.
And it's a pretty cumbersome process, I know, to apply for those credits. Is there a deadline that you're working toward for this application?
We'd like to get it in, in the next few weeks or so, if we could.
Okay. And what are a few more of the basic requirements for the project? For example, some of the folks we've heard from would be interested in a mixed use, or a mixed income development. Why is that not possible through this program?
Well, there, you can average the income of the tenants to the 60% AMI, but you cannot exceed that. So you could have 70s and 50%, but as long as the average comes to a 60% AMI, because that's the rule of the program. Is 60% AMI is the highest that you're allowed to charge, and that's the area median income of New Hanover County. I'm sorry. So.
And do you have any idea? I know you don't have a crystal ball, I'm assuming, but do you have any idea what the chances are for most folks who apply for these?
We think this project's going to be well received. North Carolina Housing, I believe, has spoken to some of the folks at the city of Wilmington, on how to try to start addressing the affordable housing shortfall here. We think we'll be successful. We're working toward that goal for sure.
Thank you. And to repeat, that is the affordable housing is not part of the conditions. Since this is a general rezoning, but to Mr. Sharp's point earlier about trusting the applicants, I thought it would be a great teachable moment to share a little bit about your process and where you're going through. So,
well, we are, workforce affordable housing developers. That's kind of what we do. It's our business. So I wouldn't know how to go out really and do a large market rate deal, to be honest. So this is our core business. Yes.
If the application is not approved, what happens next?
We would have to give up our pursuit of the project.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Wolf, did you want to address some of the comments as well?
Certainly, and in particular, the last one that you said, as was pointed out, it is a cumbersome process. And whereas the conditional districts that we're here at a lot of times, they're almost invariably a more intense use. As I pointed out earlier, that this is almost a down zone as far as traffic and everything else. I think the concern is that the opponents are looking as if nothing will happen at the site. But as it is as a commercial site, at a build out, it would have an extensive amount of traffic. And I think that the staff summary made those comparisons to the difference between those types of uses and the residential uses, the fact that they're on bus lines. But regardless of what happens with them, we truly believe that this is a much more appropriate site for multifamily uses. And with any rezoning, until the new development proceeds, whatever that development is, the existing use or uses that are there, they may become non-conforming, but that doesn't stop them from being able to operate. So if this doesn't happen, the flea market can still operate until some other use is introduced that is conforming with the underlying zoning district.
Thank you. Did you want to address any of the other comments that came up in the public hearing? Or were you just focused on the questions I was asking?
I think it was pretty much what I heard was the traffic, the transition of uses just being multifamily, which I don't really have much. We're adjacent to a multifamily district. We're adjacent to a fairly high density mobile home park. To the north is the Duke Power lines. And of course, all of the corridor of Carolina Beach Road is commercial. So as a transitional use and as a consistent use, we're not trying to plop something unusual down in the middle of all of those particular districts and uses.
Thank you. Mr. Hilburn, you look like you want to speak next.
And I apologize. One more comment in response to some of the public comments. As a part of North Carolina Housing Finance Agency's rules for the tax credit program, we will be providing a stipend in our budget for relocation expenses for anyone who's displaced by the project. So that is very much included in our project budget, and we won't be able to have our project approved by the state without those funds included.
Thank you. Mr. Sharp.
I have a couple questions. Increasingly, in terms of providing housing for workforce housing and affordability, there's a desire not to cluster large numbers of people in low-income areas. How do you deal with all your experience in the Southeast? How do you deal with the concentration of families of specific financial resources?
I think when we refer generally to concentrations of lower income or concentrations of quote unquote poverty, I really think it's important here in this project to think about the income levels associated with our tenant base. We're talking about people who work in emergency services. We're talking about people who fill important roles in the retail and hospitality industries. And so I think there is one brush that is used to paint all affordable housing projects. And the truth is there are a number of different types. And this 4% LIHTC project caters to the upper end of what we deem to be affordable AMI levels. And so we have operational controls in place to make sure that our projects are safe, that our tenants are following the law. But at a minimum, I'd like to make a distinction between affordable projects generally and not using the same brush to paint every single component of that housing product.
In any of your experience, do you have any mixed use or mixed income projects?
Mixed income projects in the state of North Carolina are quite difficult because it involves finding a market rate developer who's willing to, without the benefit of a tax credit, make a full investment in a market rate unit. Our projects, just about all of the tax credit projects that are done in the state of North Carolina end up being 100% LIHTC. Our project is contemplated to be exactly that.
And what's the largest project that you generally have constructed and managed?
In 120 units.
And this is being proposed at 400?
No, sir. We have not specified the size of the project. It will be less than the maximum zoning that's available to us by means of the rezone we're requesting, but it will be larger than that. I apologize. It will be smaller than the 400 units that you've referenced.
Do you have a sense of approximately larger or smaller than?
Project will be smaller than 300 units.
Any other questions while the applicant is still up here?
If the project is not approved, how long would you retain the property?
It's difficult to speak in theory about something that hasn't happened, but what I can tell you is that our focus is on developing tax credit workforce housing in the state of North Carolina. We do not have any plans to develop a market rate project on the site.
Commissioner Woodruff, is your hand up?
It is, but it's really directed back to Ms. Wolf if you're completed with it.
Sure, she's here.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Cindy. Cindy, it was just a note in the report we got, but I'm curious, the stub street, Maryland Avenue, that's on the whatever side of the property that is.
Mm-hmm.
There was some confusion, it sounded like, from the lady that submitted the written comments today about what the status of that was. And I'm just curious from your perspective, is that a necessary part of this concept of housing going in, that there would be some access going through and out Maryland Avenue?
That would certainly be our opinion, that good interconnectivity between the neighborhoods and would be something that I believe the staff would absolutely promote. Maryland Avenue on all the plats is a dedicated right-of-way. As far as I know, the city maintains it at this point. So generally speaking, any project that goes forward, in particular one of 300 units of that sort, would have to go through a traffic impact analysis. All of the access points that are available to it would be reviewed. And then when you go into the subdivision review board for a project of this scope and size, interconnectivity, which would include that Maryland Avenue connection, would, yes, certainly be high on their list, I believe.
Would not, when Maryland Avenue was created, that was back when it was residential. The whole place down there was residential. But now you're talking about 300 units, people potentially using that on a regular basis, as I understand, to get to that light on Bell Street there at Medical Center Drive. That's quite a impact on that piece of neighborhood, I would think.
It would be a combination. It would also give that neighborhood the ability to get out if they're just turning right onto Carolina Beach Road without going to the Bell Street Medical Park. All of that would be reviewed in a traffic impact analysis, but that community is for the most part to the north of Maryland Avenue. And,
Well, I agree.
okay.
But I mean, it's only noted in the report as being the potential access to get to that light at Bell. I mean, that's
correct. And it would be as part of our interconnectivity for the city.
okay. Thank you.
Any more questions for the applicant?
Thank you very much.
All right, you can sit down. Thank you. Commissioners?
I have a question for staff.
Sure. Commissioner Sharp?
I have a question for staff. This is a general rezoning. What other possible applications could have been developed on this large parcel? Conditional?
Are you asking me what uses can be? Is it on? There it is. Great. Are you asking me like the existing uses allowed in the zone?
No, I'm saying here's an application for a general rezoning. Okay, what other types of rezoning could have been available to the applicant had they chosen to use them?
Certainly, certainly. So we have two types of rezonings. The one is the general rezoning that the applicant is going through at this moment. So
which has no.
That's correct. So they're proposing to rezone from CVCS to multifamily with no restrictions. Just whatever is allowed in the zone is what's allowed in the zone. The other method would be a conditional district rezoning, and that's where the applicant would submit an application and a site-specific site plan listing the prohibited uses as well as the allowed uses of a particular zone that they would be rezoning to. So if the applicant were to submit a conditional district rezoning, they would propose the uses that they want to direct to their project as well as a site plan and a proposed number of uses, or excuse me, proposed number of units, as well as the proposed number of parking spaces, open space, etc. So those are the two different types of avenues you can rezone property.
And I wonder if we could ask the applicant why they did not consider conditional district rezoning.
Okay.
Yes, sir. As I pointed out before, conditional district rezoning, it's a little bit more time-consuming process. Generally speaking, it is intended for zonings where the new use would have ill effects on adjacent properties or something like that. In this particular case, this is a commercially zoned property. There is a long list of the types of uses that could be put in here. So generally speaking, it is multifamily is a down zoning of it. The list of uses in the multifamily, under the multifamily classification are pretty much all multifamily, whether it's assisted living or a church perhaps, but otherwise it is a lesser dense, a lesser impactful type of zoning. The tax credit program, as Brad pointed out, is very time consuming. You've got to do a lot of things and it is time sensitive. On a project of this scope, we see no reason why the staff and the land development code has already in it all of the provisions to mitigate the difference of uses. There are buffer requirements between attached housing and single family housing, even though that single family housing in Sunset South is in a multifamily district, there would still be buffer requirements. There are subdivision review requirements, and that covers roads. There would be a traffic impact analysis. All of those things we believe can easily be handled as from the existing land development code as it is and by the departments and the professional staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lennon?
I just had a question for Mr. Walton, if he's still there.
Yes.
Table 2, on the existing CBCS zoning, if I understand you correctly, by right, somebody can go build 170,000 square feet of commercial space. Is that right?
Yes, sir. The estimated strip generation table was based on 25% building square footage, which would allow 170,000 shopping center or a 170,000 square foot medical office building. So we were looking at the average building size for that particular size of property to determine the traffic study.
So outside of normal submittals, permits, TRC, stormwater, site plans, et cetera, the controls over that site are not many, given its current zoning, correct? For somebody to come and build what you've described there.
Not sure I understood, but I think
I guess my point is, cutting to the chase, to me, this has nothing to do with low-income housing tax credit programs. To me, this situation is, do we downzone this to a multifamily? Or do we leave it where you could potentially have 8,700 trips a day versus 3,000?
that's a very positive way to look at the situation. This is a general rezoning, so there is no guarantee that affordable housing will be built here. You are rezoning the site with a potential of 390 residential apartment complexes, whether they're at rate, market rate, or luxury. This is,
Correct. And Madam Chair, if I may, because I'm not in the room, just for the applicant's benefit, I'm a huge supporter of the program. I think it's a great idea. But I think for the purpose of tonight, I'm looking at this solely, do we do this straight rezoning or not? And the affordability aspect is a bonus.
And I appreciate you pointing out that table. I was looking at that too. It's on page 3 of our packet of our staff report. And our decision here isn't should we leave the flea market or build apartments. Our decision really is looking at the most intense use of both zoning districts, since it is general rezoning, and kind of using that as a barometer to make decisions. And I would like to hear from each commissioner before we go to vote. So, Commissioner Bowman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I lived on Carolina Beach Road, not far from this site, for 34 years, and got to see how the road changed. But it is a DOT road, and the state is taking measures to improve conditions. And I think that the best way to improve the vehicular traffic that potentially could hit that road is to downzone it, as Commissioner Lennon was saying, per the table. And I also think that, in this case, as we try to promote the prospect of workforce housing, we shouldn't make it onerous to juggle and align planets with tax credits and everything, and then have to also layer in conditional items that might have to go back and be revisited multiple times through the boards to get all of that in alignment. I think what we're doing with the new ordinance, by allowing an increase density for fitting into the workforce housing box that we've created, provides the incentive for them to seek that path. But they, in this case, and probably a lot of them, they really need a little flexibility to make that work. And this is, I think, an ideal site to accomplish this.
Thanks, Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Cortez?
I think there's a lot of positives here. I think it provides the affordable housing that we need. I I'm looking for a downside and I don't see it.
Commissioner Woodruff?
I mean, I'm all for this project. I think it's a great idea. I like to talk with the developer, but I'm curious. I have this conflict in item 14 under the staff's conclusions. I don't understand. I mean, in the second sentence, it says, if the property were to be developed exclusively for several hundred affordable housing units, this would be contrary to plan policies, which is the Create Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, and discourage concentration of large. In light of the presentation tonight, and I'm not the one to call it, does staff feel that this is contrary to the comprehensive plan?
We feel that the proposal is consistent with many policies of the comprehensive plan. A lot of what is noted are half blues and half red circles because it's a general rezoning, so we haven't seen a site-specific plan that shows the proposal that guarantees what the applicant is proposing. One of the items 3.1.1 talks about mixed income neighborhoods should be promoted throughout the city. And you should not concentrate low to moderate incomes in one specific area. And based on what the applicant is proposing, we were feeling that the concentration of low to moderate, instead of being open to other mixed incomes, would be discouraged with the comprehensive plan. And so I think that was the justification for item 14, but I don't know if Glenn wants to go further into that.
Okay, so staff is okay with the plan as you understand, or as we all understand it based on the presentation tonight. It's not a problem.
Our recommendation is approval based on the items contained in the case summary and our analysis of the project.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Goins?
Yeah, I agree with the project. I think it meets a need of the community. I do feel, listening to the dissenters and losing the flea market, it does change the community, but being that this is a valuable piece of property in the middle of a commercial district, the idea that the flea market will be there in a couple of years is probably not something that's going to happen. Also, I feel pretty confident the applicant's going to do what they say. The property, I don't believe if they wanted to develop it for higher incomes, it's not that desirable, being with the substation on the north side and then the port, within the sight views of a high-rise building. So as they say they're going to do, I think that's a good use of the property.
Thanks. Anyone else? I think you all know I'm a big advocate of affordable housing and do it for a living every day. And if this were not a proposal that had anything to do with affordable housing, which is how we need to look at it, I would still support it because it does provide housing, period, which is desperately needed in our community. And the other uses that are listed in this district are also very appropriate for the site. And as I agree with Commissioner Goins that the flea market, the flea market days are numbered. We can't force a property owner to keep their property the way it is. And we see a lot of that in the public hearings, that people appreciate what they have and don't want it to change. So unless there's any other comments, Mr. Sharp?
I'm a strong supporter of affordable housing too. And I happen to sit on the Wilmington Housing Authority Board and two nonprofits that work for affordable housing. And were this an application for a conditional use zoning, I would be a cheerleader for it. We're not really talking about affordable housing here. We're talking about a general rezoning, okay? The affordable housing is either a hope or a red herring, depending whether you are a believer or not. The real issue is you have a large site off of Carolina Beach Road that will be rezoned, and there could be multiple uses for it. So I don't think we should condition our vote on whether affordable housing is going to happen or not. We don't have any guarantees, we don't have any knowledge, and we don't know what the approval process is on tax credit. So let's just bring it back to really what it is. It is a general rezoning of a large tract of land, and we need to be prepared to see whatever happens to it.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Lennon?
I couldn't agree with Commissioner Sharp more, that this is it is not an affordable housing rezoning request. It is a downzoning request. It is a request to address almost every one of the concerns that we heard tonight in terms of traffic, in terms of impact on adjoining neighborhoods, and impact on Carolina Beach Road. So as Chairman Lyle said, at the end of the day, if there's not an affordable housing project there, there's still going to be housing there. And the impact to those 15 plus acres is going to be less than what someone could do right now without any input whatsoever from this body.
Thank you for the discussion. What is the will of the commission? Commissioner Bowman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move to approve agenda item 4, the request for 2430, 2370, 2374, 2346 Carolina Beach Road, and 2365 Washington Street to rezone from CB and CS to MFHM, non-conditional, straight rezoning, and that the approval of this request is consistent with the objectives and policies of the following plans adopted by the City of Wilmington: Great Wilmington Comprehensive Plan, City of Wilmington Strategic Plan. The Planning Commission considers its approval to be reasonable in the public interest because the proposed multifamily zoning presents an appropriate transition from the commercial areas along Carolina Beach Road to the existing residential uses to the west in the Sunset South neighborhood. And I might add is a dramatic reduction on many of the other currently permitted uses in terms of traffic impact. Therefore, the Planning Commission recommends approval of this request, and there are no conditions as to straight rezoning.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Bowman has moved to recommend approval of item number 4, and it sounded like there was a second from Commissioner Lennon. Is that right?
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call. Commissioner Bowman?
Aye.
Commissioner Cortez?
Aye.
Commissioner Goins?
Aye.
Commissioner Lennon?
Aye.
Commissioner Lyle? Aye. Commissioner Sharp?
Aye.
And Commissioner Woodruff?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for your time and for your interest in bringing this project to the Wilmington area, and we wish you luck with your application. Thanks. But wait, there's more. Do we have any items from the commissioners?
Could we have a clarification of when the next joint work session is?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Mr. Sharp. It is on Friday, July 23rd
Thank you.
at 8:30 a.m. and it's in this room.
Thank you.
That is Friday, right? 23rd. It is whatever the date the Friday is. I believe it's the
Friday,
23rd.
I think so.
23rd,
8:30.
8:30, and it'll be here at the convention center in this room.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more items from staff? Mr. Attorney?
Thanks. This is really brief. Since our last meeting of the Planning Commission, the City Council did approve the rule changes mandated by 160D. I have a copy of those for you. For those who aren't here in person, I'll email them to you. And after the meeting today, for those that are here, I'll give you a copy for your notebooks.
Thank you. Seeing no further business, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Commissioner Lennon has moved to adjourn. Do we have a second? Commissioner Cortez, and we'll do a voice vote on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you for the good work tonight. We are adjourned.
Yeah.
That's right. And I'm on vacation.